Adam, Mia, Ben, and Sarah were geology students on a field trip in the remote mountain range. The mountains, steeped in mystery, were known for their geological significance and hidden caves. They had come here to study the rocks and learn, but fate had other plans. "All right, everyone, this is it. Let's make some history," Adam said, his voice filled with excitement. He was the adventurous one, always looking for new thrills. His eyes gleamed with the thought of making a groundbreaking discovery. "I don't know, Adam. This place gives me the creeps," Mia replied, her brow furrowed. Mia was the practical one, always skeptical of Adam's wild ideas. "There's no record of this cave. It's not even on the maps." "Exactly. That's what makes it perfect," Adam grinned. "Think about what we could find." Ben and Sarah, though nervous, followed Adam's enthusiasm. They entered the cave together, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, illuminating jagged rocks and the strange, hollow sound of their footsteps. As the group ventured deeper into the cave, the temperature dropped. The air grew colder and damper, as if the earth itself were alive and watching them. Eventually, after passing through a narrow passage, they discovered a hidden entrance, a large stone door half buried in the earth. Its surface was covered in strange symbols, half erased by time. "This isn't natural," Mia whispered, touching the door's surface. "This was built." The stone door creaked open with an eerie groan, revealing a dark, musty chamber beyond. The air was thick with a strange, almost oppressive energy. As their flashlights scanned the room, they discovered something that sent a chill down their spines. An ancient tomb, untouched by time. The walls of the tomb were covered in murals, faded, yet disturbingly lifelike. The paintings depicted strange, monstrous figures, human-like creatures with multiple limbs, eyes that glowed, and faces twisted in agony. Some of the figures were shown in ritualistic poses, while others seemed to be in motion, their limbs stretching unnaturally. "These look alive," Sarah said, her voice trembling. She was the most open-minded of the group, always fascinated by the paranormal. But even she couldn't deny the strange energy emanating from the paintings. "They're just old," Adam said, dismissing her fears. "These are just ancient depictions of gods or legends. We've seen stuff like this before." But Mia was not so sure. "No, Adam. There's something wrong about this place. These aren't just paintings. These were meant to be a warning." As the group explored deeper into the tomb, they began to notice something even more disturbing. The paintings, which had initially seemed static, began to change before their eyes. Figures that had once been stationary now moved, slowly, imperceptibly. The creatures' limbs twitched, and their eyes shifted, following the group's movements. "Am I going crazy?" Ben asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did that figure just blink?" Sarah's flashlight trembled in her hand. "I saw it too. It moved." The group froze, their hearts pounding. The paintings on the walls were no longer mere images. They were living things, breathing and watching them. The whispers, faint at first, began to echo from the walls, voices calling out, murmuring in languages that none of them could understand. "I don't think we should be here," Ben said, backing away from the walls. His face was pale, his body trembling. "We need to leave." But as they turned to head back to the entrance, they realized something terrifying. The way they had come was gone. The narrow passage they had entered through had vanished, replaced by solid rock. The tomb had shifted, trapping them inside. Panic set in as the group realized they were trapped in the tomb. The walls seemed to close in around them, and the temperature dropped even further. The air felt suffocating, as though the tomb itself were alive, breathing with them. "What's happening? Where's the way out?" Mia cried, her voice filled with desperation. The whispers grew louder, and now they were no longer distant echoes. They seemed to come from inside their heads. The paintings on the walls had turned from mere images to something far more terrifying. Some of the monstrous creatures now stepped out of the murals, their twisted forms looming in the dark corners of the tomb. "We need to destroy the paintings," Mia suggested, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "They're the key to this place." But as they approached the murals, they realized something even more horrifying. The images were not just a record of an ancient cult. The figures in the paintings were not gods or myths. They were prisoners, locked away by the ancient civilization that had built this tomb to keep them contained. "This tomb, it was meant to keep them sealed," Sarah whispered. "We've set them free." Among the many disturbing images, one stood out, the central painting. It depicted a towering, shadowy figure, obscured by darkness. Its face was hidden, but its presence was overwhelming. The figure stood above a group of worshippers, its hands raised in a silent command. As the group stared at the figure, something strange happened. The air around them began to pulse with energy. The shadows in the painting shifted, and the figure's hand moved ever so slightly, as though reaching out to them. "That's it," Adam whispered, his voice hoarse. "That's what we've been seeing in the paintings. It's alive." The figure in the painting began to manifest before them, its form stretching and growing, taking shape as it stepped out of the canvas. The room darkened, the temperature plummeting. The shadowed figure, now fully formed, loomed over them, its cold eyes glowing with malevolent intent. "You have disturbed my prison," the figure's voice rumbled, echoing in their minds. "You will not leave. You belong to me now." The group ran, scrambling for any way out. But the tomb itself had become a living entity, shifting and warping to trap them. The walls twisted, the ground trembled, and the paintings, now fully animated, reached out to ensnare them. Mia, the last to flee, turned to face the figure, her heart racing. The shadowed figure loomed over her, its presence suffocating. "Why? Why do you do this?" she asked, her voice cracking with fear. "Because I was never meant to be free," the figure replied. "And now, neither are you." In a final act of desperation, Mia grabbed the nearest object, a shard of broken stone, and threw it at the painting of the shadowed figure. The impact was deafening, and for a moment, everything went still. But when Mia turned around, she saw that the figure's face was no longer obscured. The final image had burned itself into her mind, its haunting eyes staring at her from the dark. As the tomb's walls closed in, Mia found herself alone. The figure had disappeared, leaving her with nothing but the haunting image of its eyes. And deep beneath the earth, in the dark recesses of the tomb, the curse lingered, waiting for the next group of curious souls to awaken it once more. A deserted country road winds through dense fog. Tall trees loom overhead. A single car headlights cut through the darkness. Inside the car, Jason Harper driving and Emily Harper sitting in the passenger seat. "Jason, Are you sure this is the right place? The realtor said it's just down this road. The house is supposed to be abandoned for years, perfect for renovations. The car rounds a bend and suddenly the silhouette of an old decaying mansion emerges from the fog. Its windows are dark, some broken vines crawling up the walls. Jason parks the car. They get out. The wind picks up, carrying a faint, whispering voice. Emily shivers. The front door groans as Jason pushes it open. The air inside is cold, stale, and smells faintly of decay. They walk in. Their footsteps echo in the empty halls. Dust swirls around them in the moonlight. A grand staircase leads up to the second floor, its banister warped and rotting. Suddenly, a faint child's laugh echoes from upstairs. Emily freezes. Did you hear that? Emily Enchka Ging. Probably a raccoon or something. They continue, exploring. In the dining room, a long table is covered in cobwebs. Chairs are overturned. A silver candelabra lies on the floor, dented. Jason picks it up and shakes it gently. Then the candelabra flies from his hands across the room, smashing into the wall. Jason and Emily stumble back, horrified. A loud creaking sound comes from the staircase. Both look up. A dark shadow moves across the top landing. It disappears. Emily gasps. Dort. Emily unwraps a blanket, trying to warm herself. A sudden knock comes from the window. Both freeze. Who's there? Who's there? Emily startled. Jason slowly approaches the window. Nothing is outside. He sighs in relief. The knock comes again, louder this time. A faint, distorted child's voice whispers, "Go away." Emily clutches Jason's arm. The temperature in the room drops dramatically. Their breath becomes visible. Suddenly, the lights from their flashlights flicker. Shadows stretch unnaturally along the walls. A cold, unseen hand brushes Emily's shoulder. She screams. Jason grabs a nearby chair, swinging it wildly, but hits nothing. The room is empty, yet the presence is undeniable. A low, guttural whisper fills the room. You shouldn't have come. Jason and Emily huddle together, terrified as the first real night of horror begins in Willow Creek. Jason and Emily are huddled on the floor, clutching each other. The cold in the room is unbearable. Their breaths come in short gasps. Shadows twist unnaturally across the walls. Jason grabs his phone, trying to call for help. No signal. He tries again. Still nothing. A soft, dragging sound comes from the hallway outside the room. Something is moving. A door at the end of the hallway creaks open slowly on its own. Emily hides her face in Jason's chest. The room grows darker, as if a shadow is spreading. A low, almost human-like moan echoes from the corridor. I want to leave. I want to go home, Emily crying softly. Jason slowly stands, trying to look brave. He grabs a candle from a dresser and lights it. The flame flickers violently, then steadies. He steps into the hallway. The floorboards groan under his weight. Cold wind brushes past him. He shines the candle down the hall. A small, pale hand suddenly reaches out from under the staircase, grabbing at him. Jason stumbles back, screaming. Jason! Emily screaming. The hand disappears as quickly as it appeared. Silence falls. But now, faint whispers are all around them. echoing from the walls and ceiling. Whispers overlapping. Leave. Now. Go. The next morning, the rain has stopped, leaving a damp, foggy landscape outside. Jason and Emily are examining the house by daylight, the horrors of the night before fresh in their minds. They find a small library, dusty and full of cobwebs. Emily opens a large book, flipping through pages of old newspaper clippings. Jason, look at this. Clippings show a series of mysterious deaths and disappearances in the mansion, all involving children. One article catches their attention. A woman named Madeline Thorne was accused of witchcraft and killed on the property in the 1800s. A sudden loud bang upstairs makes them both jump. A chair slides across the floor on its own. The air grows icy again. Jason grabs Emily's hand. We need help. Someone who understands this. Jason finds an old working landline in the study room. He dials frantically. The line clicks. Then a calm, confident voice answers. This is Dr. Marcus Vale. How may I help you? My name is Jason Harper. We moved into a mansion in Willow Creek. Something's wrong. There's a spirit here. It attacked us last night. Take a deep breath. Describe the events from the beginning. Jason recounts everything. The whispers, the shadows, the hand under the stairs, the dragging sounds, and the chilling presence. Emily adds the newspaper clippings about Madeline Thorne. Jason hangs up, glancing at Emily, both knowing that tonight will be even worse than before. The rain has returned, light at first, then heavier. Fog swirls across the lawn. Jason and Emily stand at the edge of the driveway, nervously awaiting Dr. Marcus Vale and his team. A sleek black SUV appears through the mist. 3 figures step out. Dr. Marcus Vale, a calm, experienced paranormal investigator. Sister Helena, a medium with deep spiritual insight. And Liam, a tech specialist with a knack for detecting anomalies. Are you ready? Once we enter, there's no turning back until we've dealt with her. I don't know if I can. Emily trembling. They all enter the mansion. The doors creak ominously, echoing through the dark hallways. The team sets up equipment, EVP recorders, EMF detectors, cameras, and candles. Dr. Vale explains the plan. Madeline Thorne is strong. She feeds off fear. She reacts to sudden movements, loud sounds, and non-vegetarian food. Her anger stems from betrayal and her violent death. Tonight, we'll attempt to communicate, then bind her spirit. Jason and Emily sit in the corner, holding each other. A faint whisper floats through the room, too soft to catch clearly. A sudden slamming sound upstairs causes Liam to drop his camera. Dr. Vale moves toward the staircase. He ascends, candle in hand. The shadows seem to stretch along the walls, forming twisted shapes. A chilling, high-pitched laugh echoes down the staircase. Dr. Vale carefully approaches a closed door at the end of the hallway. The temperature drops sharply. His breath becomes visible. Madeline Thorne, we are here to help you move on. The door slams open violently on its own. A shadowy figure appears. A pale woman in a tattered dress, her eyes black voids. Long black hair obscures most of her face. She floats a few inches above the floor, moving unnaturally. Madeline Thorne, your anger belongs to the past. You will not harm them. The ghost screams, a high-pitched wail that shakes the walls. Furniture slides across the floor. Candles extinguish themselves one by one. Liam shouts, trying to record everything. Sister Helena steps forward, holding a small pendant glowing faintly. By the light of the old, by the power of the unseen, I call you to listen. The ghost pauses, tilts her head. A whisper emerges, almost human. Why did they betray me? Ghost whispering. Suddenly, a loud crash is heard from downstairs. Jason and Emily run toward the sound. They see furniture thrown across the room. A shadow moves across the ceiling, then lands in front of them. It's Madeline Thorne, Emily screaming. The ghost lunges at Jason. He is thrown across the room. Emily tries to grab him, but the ghost grabs her too. Both are lifted off the ground by an invisible force. Dr. Vale runs to the center of the room, holding a small silver cross and chanting an incantation. The ghost lets out a chilling scream. Leave or die, ghost screaming. Jason manages to grab a piece of broken furniture, swinging it at the ghost. It passes through her like smoke, but slows her down. Dr. Val's shouting grows louder. Sister Helena joins in, the pendant glowing brighter. The ghost starts to dissipate slowly, her wail fading. The air warms. The objects stop moving. Jason and Emily collapse to the floor, exhausted but alive. Dr. Vale serious to Emily and Jason. This is only the beginning. Spirits like Madeline Thorne, they are powerful. But tonight, she has been weakened. The camera lingers on the shadowy corners of the room, hinting that she may not be gone entirely. Jason and Emily sit as Sister Helena performs a vision ritual. Candles circle them. Incense smoke curls around their faces. Suddenly, the room shifts. The walls seem to bleed. Her fury is born of betrayal, starvation, and murder. They left me. They left me. Ghost whispering. Objects fly. Lights flicker. Shadows dart across hallways. Jason and Emily are trapped in a room, terrified. She's feeding off your fear. Stay calm. Dr. Vale shouting. Jason sees ghostly children in the corner, echoes of Madeline's lost family. One reaches toward him, whispering, "Join us." He panics, but Sister Helena intervenes with her pendant, driving the spirits back. Dr. Vale and Sister Helena lure Madeline into the attic. Candles, protective symbols, and chanting surround her. "You can't take me," ghost screaming. Emily, summoned by Sister Helena, repeats her mother's name to calm Madeline, connecting to the part of her soul still human. Madeline, it's time to rest. You don't have to hurt anymore. The ghost shrieks, convulses, then suddenly falls silent, hovering briefly before dissipating into mist. The attic is still. The storm outside breaks into light rain. The mansion is quiet. Broken furniture remains, but the oppressive darkness is gone. Jason and Emily sit, exhausted but alive. It's over. She's gone. For now. Spirits like her leave traces. Respect the house. Don't return alone, Sister Helena. Madeline Thorne's story is a warning. Not all spirits want revenge. Some just want closure. The team leaves, the mansion looming quietly in the early morning fog. The camera lingers on a corner of the attic. Faint black smoke curls, hinting she may not be completely gone. Jason and Emily walk away, holding hands. Birds chirp. Life seems to return to normal, but a faint wind carries a whisper. "I'll be waiting," ghost whispering. Cut to black. The credits roll, leaving a lingering sense of unease. It was a rainy day when Clara found the painting. She had always been fond of antiquities, old furniture, dusty books, and particularly artwork. It was during a visit to a small, obscure antique shop, tucked away in a narrow alley of the city, that she first saw it. The painting was hidden in a dimly lit corner of the shop, its frame adorned with intricate gold carvings that seemed to shimmer faintly, almost as if they had a life of their own. The painting depicted a young woman, pale and delicate, dressed in a dark Victorian gown. Her eyes, however, were what caught Clara's attention. They seemed to be looking directly at her, their expression unreadable, yet filled with an unsettling depth. The woman's mouth was slightly curled into a knowing smile, but it was the kind of smile that suggested a hidden darkness, something no one would dare to ask about. Clara couldn't explain it, but she was drawn to the painting. It felt as though the woman in the portrait was calling to her, begging to be freed from the confines of the canvas. She approached the piece carefully, almost reverently, and ran her fingers lightly along the frame. The touch sent a strange chill down her spine, and she immediately pulled her hand back. A voice inside her head warned her not to touch it, but she dismissed it as nothing more than her imagination running wild. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with graying hair and a crooked smile, watched Clara closely. "That painting," he said in a gravelly voice, "is not something you want to buy. It's cursed." Clara's curiosity only deepened. Cursed? What do you mean?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. The shopkeeper hesitated, his gaze flickering toward the painting. "People who have owned that painting, strange things happen to them. Disappearances, madness, accidents. It's best to leave it where it is." Clara was about to dismiss his words when the shopkeeper added, "But if you truly want it, I won't stop you." After a long moment of indecision, Clara made up her mind. She had to have it. She didn't believe in curses or superstitions. She was a woman of reason. The price for the painting was steep, but it felt like destiny. Clara paid for the painting and left the shop, unaware of the dark forces she was about to invite into her life. Clara hung the painting in her apartment as soon as she got home. The room seemed to change the moment she placed it on the wall. The air grew heavier, the temperature slightly colder, and an eerie stillness settled over the space. Clara tried to ignore the growing sense of discomfort as she went about her day, but it was impossible to shake the feeling that she was being watched. That night, Clara went to bed exhausted, but her sleep was far from peaceful. She dreamed of the woman in the painting. In the dream, the woman's eyes followed Clara's every movement, and her smile grew wider, more twisted. The dream shifted into something darker. A shadowy figure appeared, lurking behind the woman, its presence suffocating. Clara tried to scream, but no sound came out. Suddenly, the shadow lunged at her, and she woke with a start, her heart racing. She sat up in bed, drenched in sweat, and glanced at the painting across the room. The woman's eyes seemed to glimmer in the dim light of the room, and Clara felt a chill run down her spine. It wasn't just a nightmare. Something was wrong with that painting. Clara couldn't explain it, but she knew that the woman was not just an image on canvas. She was alive in some way. Clara's obsession with the painting grew as the days passed. She couldn't stop thinking about it, the woman's face haunting her thoughts, her eyes always on the verge of revealing something terrible. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara began researching the painting's origins. She visited local libraries, scoured online forums, and even reached out to art historians. What she discovered was far more chilling than she could have imagined. The painting was created by an artist named Charles Darnell, a brilliant but reclusive painter in the late 19th century. The woman in the painting was believed to be his fiancée, Eleanor Blackwood. Darnell had been completely enamored with Eleanor, but their relationship was marred by tragedy. Eleanor was found dead in her home under mysterious circumstances, her body cold and her face frozen in a horrific expression of terror. Darnell was never found, but rumors spread that he had gone mad with grief and rage, and it was said that he had painted the portrait of Eleanor in a fit of obsession before disappearing without a trace. As Clara dug deeper, she learned that the painting had changed hands several times over the years, with each new owner experiencing bizarre and inexplicable events. Some claimed to have seen the figure in the painting move. Others reported hearing whispers in the dead of night. Some simply vanished, their fates unknown. The final owner before Clara had been a wealthy businessman named Richard Payne. Payne had acquired the painting from an estate sale, but after a few months, he was found dead in his study, the painting hanging ominously on the wall. The authorities had ruled his death as a heart attack, but his personal belongings had been strewn about the room as though there had been a struggle. The connection was undeniable. The painting had cursed everyone who owned it, and now Clara was its newest victim. The strange occurrences escalated. Clara would hear faint whispers coming from the painting at night, soft murmurs that seemed to be calling her name. The shadows in her apartment grew longer, darker, and the woman in the painting began to change. Her smile widened, and her eyes seemed to grow even more intense, as if she were reaching out to Clara from within the canvas. One evening, Clara invited her friend Lucy over to try and ease her growing paranoia. Lucy was immediately unsettled by the painting, the way it seemed to dominate the room. "Clara, you have to get rid of this thing," Lucy urged, her voice shaking. "I don't care what it costs. It's not worth the risk." Clara laughed nervously. "It's just a painting, Lucy. There's nothing wrong with it." But night, Lucy had a nightmare. In her dream, she was trapped inside the painting, surrounded by the darkness that seemed to grow thicker with each passing second. The woman in the portrait reached out to her, her fingers curling around Lucy's throat. When Lucy awoke, her neck was sore, as though someone had been choking her in her sleep. Clara's mind began to unravel. The whispers from the painting became louder, more persistent. They no longer seemed like distant sounds, but voices that filled her head, demanding that she understand their message. The woman's smile was now a grotesque snarl, and her eyes gleamed with malevolence. Clara's life became consumed by the painting. She couldn't eat, sleep, or think about anything else. She stopped going to work, stopped answering her phone. She sat in front of the painting for hours, waiting for the woman to speak to her, to reveal the truth. One night, Clara found herself standing before the painting, mesmerized by the woman's eyes. She could hear her voice in her head, clear as day. "Come to me." Without thinking, Clara reached out to touch the canvas. As her fingers brushed the surface, a jolt of electricity shot through her, and she felt herself being pulled forward. The painting seemed to come alive, the woman's hand emerging from the canvas, her fingers curling around Clara's wrist. Clara screamed, but the woman's grip tightened. She tried to pull away, but the force was too great. The room seemed to spin, and Clara felt herself being drawn into the painting, into the darkness that awaited her. The next morning, Clara's apartment was found in disarray, but Clara was gone. The painting still hung on the wall, its smile wider than ever. Those who searched the apartment found no trace of Clara, no body, no sign of a struggle, just the empty, haunted gaze of the woman in the painting. As time passed, the painting disappeared from Clara's apartment. No one knew where it had gone, but rumors spread of another tragic soul who had fallen victim to its curse. The painting, like the woman in it, remained a mystery, an enigma, forever waiting for the next person to claim it, to succumb to its dark power. I never believed in ghosts or curses or any of that supernatural nonsense, but that all changed when we moved to that small town and bought that cursed Christmas tree. It was a cold December morning when we arrived at the house, an old, slightly worn-out place on the edge of town. My parents thought it would be the perfect spot for our first real Christmas as a family. The house had a charm to it, though it did give off a certain eerie vibe. It was exactly what you'd picture in a Christmas movie. Snow gently falling outside, the smell of pine in the air, and the soft glow of holiday lights from the windows. But there was something off about the place, something I couldn't quite place. That afternoon, we went to the local Christmas shop to pick out a tree. The shop was small, with wooden beams and a musty scent that reminded me of a forgotten attic. The owner, an elderly man named Mr. Fisher, greeted us with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. After a brief chat, my mum picked out the most beautiful tree I'd ever seen.
Wonderful. Come on, touch it.
It was large, with thick branches and needles that shimmered as if dusted with a little bit of magic. But Mr. Fisher seemed strangely reluctant to sell it to us, almost like he was warning us without saying a word. When we brought it home, something felt wrong. The tree stood proudly in the corner of our living room, yet it was hard to shake the feeling that it wasn't just a tree. That night, we began decorating it, and I swear, every time the lights flickered on, I saw shadows move in the corners of my eyes. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was just the low light playing tricks on me. But when I went to bed, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing. Was it the tree? Was I imagining things? I tossed and turned, unable to shake the sense of dread creeping up my spine. Around midnight, I heard it, soft whispers, like a distant murmur, coming from the direction of the living room. I crept out of bed and tiptoed toward the sound. As I passed the hallway, I saw it, the tree's lights flickering wildly, casting long, twisted shadows across the walls. And that's when I saw them. The figures. They were faint at first, just shadows, but then they became clearer. Figures of people, pale, ghostly figures, hovering around the tree. Their eyes were vacant, their faces twisted in eternal sorrow. The whispering grew louder, until it felt like it was coming from all around me. My heart raced, and I froze in place. One of the figures turned its head, locking eyes with me, and I could feel the coldness in its gaze seep into my very soul. I blinked, and they were gone. I didn't dare tell my parents. They'd think I was crazy, that I was just having nightmares. The next morning, I tried to brush it off, but the whispers didn't stop. Every time I passed by the tree, I could feel its presence, like it was watching me. Days passed, and the odd occurrences only got worse. It wasn't just the whispers anymore. Objects began to move on their own, little things at first. A cup sliding across the table, a book falling from the shelf. But then came the noises. Loud bangs like something, or someone, was slamming against the walls. My parents couldn't hear it. They refused to believe me. But I knew the truth. The tree was alive, and not in a good way. One day, I decided to investigate. I had to know what was happening. I went to the local library and began researching the history of the tree. It wasn't long before I came across an old newspaper article from the early 1900s. The headline read, "Family found dead on Christmas Eve. Mystery unsolved." I read the article with growing unease. It described the brutal murder of a family who had lived in the house where we now live. The father, a man named Samuel Bishop, had gone mad and killed his wife and children during a holiday celebration. The article didn't go into details, but it said that after the murders, the family's Christmas tree, one just like ours, was said to be haunted. The townspeople believed that the tree had absorbed the spirits of the dead family, trapping their souls inside. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Was it possible? Could this tree, our tree, be the same one? It seemed absurd, but I couldn't ignore the strange, terrifying events happening around me. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I had to confront the tree. There was no other choice. I sat in front of it, staring at the lights as they flickered. I tried to steady my breathing, but the air around me felt heavy, suffocating. Then it happened. The whispers returned, louder than ever. I could hear them clearly now. "Help us. Let us go." Suddenly, I felt something cold brush against my cheek. A shadow moved, and I watched in horror as the tree seemed to grow. The branches reached out toward me, as if it were alive and trying to pull me in. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. Then, a thought crossed my mind. What if the tree wasn't just a tree? What if it was some kind of prison, holding those poor souls captive for eternity? I had to stop it. I couldn't let it keep tormenting us. The next day, I returned to Mr. Fisher's shop. He wasn't there, but his assistant, a kind young woman named Emma, was. She looked at me curiously when I asked about the tree, but when I mentioned the Bishop family's story, her expression changed. "You don't know the whole story," she said, her voice trembling. "The tree, it's cursed. The family's souls are trapped inside it, and it doesn't let go easily." I begged her to help me, to give me some way to break the curse. She told me there was only one way. I had to return the tree to its original resting place, on the land where the Bishop family had been killed. That night, I did it. I drove to the old abandoned house where the Bishop family had lived. It was a crumbling, haunted place, just as I had imagined. The air was thick with despair, and the wind howled through the broken windows. I dragged the tree out of my car and placed it in front of the house. As soon as I did, the whispers stopped. For the first time in days, I felt a strange sense of peace. I never spoke of it again. We left the town the next day, and I haven't thought about that tree since. But every year, when Christmas rolls around, I can't help but wonder, was it really the tree that was haunted? Or was it the place itself, holding on to the tragedy of the past? I don't know, but I'll never forget the horrors of that Christmas. My mom had always worked a late shift at the hospital. She was a dedicated nurse, and I was used to being alone in the house at night. For a 17-year-old, it wasn't too bad. Our house was cozy and well secured, good neighborhood, neighbors I knew by name, and everything felt safe. It was always just me, the quiet hum of the TV, and my books. But recently, things had started to change. Mom started bringing her work home, and the weight of the stress was beginning to affect her. She seemed more distant, more anxious. Her new boyfriend, Tony, had started staying over more often, and Mom would always brush it off, saying it was nice to have someone around since she worked such late hours. I didn't mind it at first. Tony was charming, always friendly, and we had dinner together sometimes. But there was something strange about him. A look in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. It made my skin crawl like he was studying me, not in a fatherly way, but like I was something to be observed, analyzed. That evening, the change was palpable. Mom had left earlier in the evening, and Tony said he was going out with friends. I sat down to finish my homework, distracted by a growing sense of unease. It wasn't like the usual feeling I got when I was home alone. This time, there was something in the air. It was around 10:30 when the knock came. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Tony standing there, wearing a black jacket and jeans. He looked different. His face was flushed, his eyes wide in a way that made my heart race. He wasn't smiling. Instead, there was a look of desperation, almost like he was panicked. I hesitated but opened the door a crack, the chain lock keeping it from swinging all the way open. "Tony, what's wrong?" I asked, trying to hide the tension in my voice. "Maya," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I need to talk to you. I need your help." I raised an eyebrow. "Help? With what?" His hand reached for the door, and I instinctively stepped back, my heart beginning to pound. I did something terrible," he muttered, stepping into the doorway, his breath coming fast. "Please, let me in. I need your help. If I tell you everything, you have to promise you won't tell anyone, okay?" "Tony, what are you talking about?" I said, backing away slightly. My hand was hovering near the phone, but I didn't want to alert him. He pushed the door open wider, his body blocking the entrance. I had no choice but to let him in, my instinct screaming at me to shut the door and call my mom. But I didn't. I stepped back as he entered the house, his eyes darting around. I hurt someone," Tony whispered, his voice shaking. "I wasn't supposed to. I didn't mean to, but it happened." He looked at me with wide eyes, his pupils dilated. "I need you to hide me. Please, Maya. I don't have anyone else." I froze. "Hurt someone? What are you talking about? Tony, you need to leave, now." He didn't move. His expression became darker, almost menacing, and something in his voice shifted. "I didn't want to. I swear I didn't want to, But it happened, and I need you to help me cover it up. You're the only one I can trust, Maya. I can't go to prison." I didn't say anything for a moment, my mind racing. What had he done? Why was he here? Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me. I jumped, startled, and turned to see Tony standing by the hallway, his face flushed with emotion, his hands trembling. "Listen to me, Maya," he said, stepping closer. "I made a huge mistake, and if anyone finds out..." I could feel my pulse quicken. Something wasn't right. "What did you do, Tony?" I asked, my voice trembling with fear. His face twisted, and in that moment, I saw something dark in his eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt them, but I didn't have a choice." His hands reached for me suddenly, and I stepped back. "Tony, what are you talking about? You need to leave now. I'm calling Mom." He shook his head, and his eyes filled with something cold. "You get it, Maya. I'm not leaving. You're not calling anyone. Not until you help me." I could feel the panic rise in my chest. He had crossed a line. My mind was racing, and every instinct told me to run, to get out of the house. But before I could even think, he lunged forward, grabbing my wrist in a grip that felt like iron. "Let go of me," I screamed, struggling against him. "You don't understand," he whispered, his breath hot on my ear. "They're dead. They're dead because of me. And you're going to help me cover this up. You're going to help me, or..." He let the sentence hang in the air, his fingers tightening. I knew I had to think fast. My brain was working in overdrive, but fear clouded my judgment. I managed to wrench my wrist free and stumbled backward, my back hitting the wall. "Please," I begged, my voice shaking. "Just let me go. I don't know what you did, but I can't help you." Tony's face twisted in anger. "You will help me," he said, his voice cold. But then his eyes flickered, like he was seeing something else in me. Something vulnerable. I'll do whatever you want," I said quickly, my voice trembling as I searched for a way to get out of this. "But I need to call Mom. I need to talk to her. She'll help us, please." For a moment, there was a flicker of hesitation in his eyes, and I seized the opportunity. I spun around, grabbing my phone from the table, my fingers shaking as I dialed. "Mom, Tony's," I started, but before I could finish, the phone was knocked from my hand, crashing to the floor. Tony was standing right behind me, his face filled with fury. "You think you can call for help?" he snarled. "You think anyone will believe you?" Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Loud, insistent. Tony froze. His face went pale, and for the first time, fear flashed across his features. He turned to me, his eyes wild. "Don't answer it," he hissed, his grip tightening around my arm again. But I was already moving. I bolted toward the door, my body shaking with fear and adrenaline. I flung open the door, and standing there, wide-eyed and out of breath, was a man I didn't recognize. Behind him, the silhouette of a police officer was visible. "I heard yelling," the man said, his voice shaky. "Is everything okay?" Tony's grip on my arm tightened, and I felt a rush of panic. But before he could react, the police officer stepped forward, pulling out his badge. "We've been looking for a suspect who fits your description. the officer said, his voice calm but authoritative. "You're under arrest for the murder of..." Tony's eyes widened in shock. In that moment, everything seemed to slow down. I barely registered the rest of the officer's words as Tony lunged at me, but the officer was faster. He grabbed Tony, yanking him back and cuffing him before he could make another move. The world spun as I collapsed against the doorframe. The officer turned to me. "Are you all right, miss?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "He killed someone," I whispered. I didn't know. The officer gave me a reassuring look. "It's okay, you're safe now." And that's how I learned that sometimes the people closest to you aren't who you think they are. And even the ones who seem harmless can hide the darkest secrets. I remember the first time I heard about the Midnight Cult was on a rainy evening when my friends and I were hanging out at a small coffee shop in town. That night, none of us thought that our banter would lead to an experience we would never forget. As I scrolled through my phone, I came across an article about a mysterious group of people living in this town. They were called the Midnight Cult. Bizarre stories of strange rituals, unexplained disappearances, and possessed souls were all in the art. I immediately handed the phone to the group. "Look at this. I just found a super weird story. A secret society called the Midnight Cult. I hear they hold rituals at midnight in this town." Jack's eyes lit up. "That sounds interesting. I've never heard of them. What do they do?" Ethan shrugged. "It's probably just a bunch of fiction. Don't believe these things. They're just rumors." Mia was cautious. "But what if there really is some secret society that does some kind of supernatural ritual? I don't think we should get involved." But the more I heard, the more I learned, the more my group of friends and I were drawn in. No one could deny that the name the Midnight Cult had created such a great curiosity that we couldn't stop thinking about it. Especially when we found information about a ceremony tonight, right in our town. And I, despite having a bad feeling, still couldn't give up. I lowered my voice. "I think we should go find out. Anyway, if it's just a rumor, we have nothing to lose."
What was that?
Jack
Did you
was
hear that?
excited. "That's right. I can't miss this opportunity. Let's go." Mia worried. "Come on, guys. We can't just go there like that. Maybe things aren't as simple as we think." We decided to go. No one in the group really wanted to give up. And even though I had a strange feeling, I still went with them. This feeling, I think, was a combination of curiosity and fear. Every step I took in the dark night felt like a step closer to the inexplicable. When we reached the abandoned house they described, things became even stranger. The house was old, the walls were broken, the windows were broken, and a cold atmosphere hung everywhere. It looked like a house abandoned for a long time, but there was a strange life in it. Ethan whispered, "This is the place. What should we do now?" Jack looked around. "We should go in." "Don't worry, we'll just observe." The door to the house creaked as we opened it, and the air inside was so cold it felt like we were entering another world. A few of the group were starting to feel uneasy, but they continued to follow me. The flashlight on their phones only illuminated a narrow, dark hallway. Jack laughed. "It's probably just a joke. Just keep going." We walked further inside and then we heard a sound. Strange. It was music, but not any music we'd ever heard. It had an eerie sound, making me shiver. And then I realized that the sound wasn't coming from a radio or a speaker, but from a ritual. Mia shivered. "We have to go now, Lily. This isn't a joke." I paused for a moment and then stepped into a room. I felt like something was telling me to do it. A circle of people in black robes stood around a fire, muttering prayers I didn't understand. In the middle of the circle stood a man wearing a black robe and a hood that covered his face. When the light fell on him, I felt an invisible force surrounding him, and I knew immediately that we shouldn't be here. Lucas whispered, "Let's go, what are they doing?" But before we could retreat, the man with the hood turned and looked straight at us. His cold eyes seemed to pierce through me. My whole body froze, and I felt like something terrible was about to happen. Lily trembled. "Go now! We have to get out of here!" We hurried away, but as we reached the door, I heard a whisper in my ear. We couldn't escape them. A shadowy figure stood in the darkness, watching our every move. When we left the house, no one said anything. That strange feeling still lingered in me, but I knew we had seen something that no one could explain. The group was silent, only the sound of our heavy footsteps in the dark. I couldn't sleep. The strange feeling after that night followed me all night long. The cold eyes of the man in the abandoned house did not leave my mind. I couldn't stop thinking about the whispers in the wind. We had just witnessed a strange ritual. But what scared me the most was I couldn't understand why there was such a terrifying power in this town. The next morning, I met my friends at the coffee shop. Everyone looked tired and worried. They didn't say much, but there was a fear in their eyes that I couldn't deny. Mia looked at me with worried eyes. "Lily, do you feel like you can't leave that place? Like something is watching us?" Jack's face paled. "Yeah, I can't shake the feeling that they're watching us. I've never seen anything like it." Ethan pondered. "But why us? They won't leave us alone. I have a feeling this isn't as simple as a joke." Lucas shook his head, trying to laugh. "No way. We must have imagined it." But I knew, despite everyone's efforts to act calm, we were all scared. I was starting to feel like something bigger was coming. It wasn't just curiosity, but something that was pulling us into a spiral we couldn't escape. Mia began to feel strange things happening around her. She told me that she had strange dreams where she saw herself standing in a circle, like what we had witnessed in the house yesterday. But this time, she wasn't just standing there. She seemed to be participating in the ritual. Mia trembled. "Lily, I can't take it anymore. It feels like something is waiting for me, and I can't control it." As time went on, we felt more and more haunted. One evening, I received a strange text message from an unknown number. The message had only one sentence: "We're not done yet." I felt frozen in place. It wasn't a threat, but an affirmation that they knew we were there, and we couldn't escape. I whispered to myself, "What should we do now?" We decided to go back to the abandoned house. None of us wanted to do it, but we knew that only by doing so could we find out the truth about the Midnight Cult. I couldn't stop thinking about that message and the feeling that someone was watching us every step of the way. Did they really know everything about us? We were back. No one said a word, but we all understood that there was no turning back. Something had been awakened last night, and we couldn't just go back to the way things were. Ethan looked at the house. We have to prepare ourselves for what's coming. If we go in there again, things won't be the same. I couldn't help but agree. The abandoned house still stood there, like a dark monster waiting. As we entered, the cold and silent air enveloped us. This feeling, I can't describe it in words. I could feel the presence of something different, as if we were entering another dimension. Jack muttered, "There's definitely something in there. I feel like someone is watching us." We entered the room where we had witnessed the ritual yesterday. But this time, everything was different. Strange lights danced on the walls, and strange drawings began to appear on the walls, as if they had a life of their own. Lily gasped. "Don't look at the drawings. Try not to look at them." Suddenly, a sound rang out from behind us. A terrible noise, as if something was moving in the darkness. I turned around, and what I saw made me unable to believe my eyes. A black shadow, large and shapeless, was coming towards us. It wasn't a person, nor was it an animal. It was like a creature from another world, with long arms reaching out from the darkness. Lucas shouted, "Run! Everyone run!" We ran like we had never run before, but there seemed to be no way out. That black shadow was always behind us, chasing us, not letting us escape. I could feel its cold breath, as if it wanted to swallow us. When we finally got out, the house was suddenly silent. No more noise, no more strange lights. Everything was eerily quiet. But I knew that dark shadow hadn't left. It was still waiting in the darkness. Lily gasped. "We can't stop. If we want to survive, we have to find a way to kill them. But how?" We escaped the abandoned house, but that feeling still lingered. The dark shadows, the strange lights, the incomprehensible whispers. They all followed us, keeping us from sleeping. We knew it wasn't over. The Midnight Cult were no ordinary group of people, and what we had witnessed was just the tip of the iceberg. Last night, Mia had a strange dream. She dreamed that she was pulled into a dark crypt where strange paintings on the walls were moving. And there, a door opened, leading to another world, a world we couldn't imagine. Her feelings were so real, so intense, and I knew that dream was a sign that we needed to do something before it was too late. Lily held Mia's hand, worried. "Mia, are you sure you're okay? Your dream, it wasn't a normal dream." Mia sighed, her face pale. "I don't know. It was like a warning, an invitation. Those doors weren't just dreams. I felt like I actually saw them." Jack was shocked. "We can't just sit here and ignore it. This isn't just a group of people. They have real power. We have to do something." But I knew we couldn't continue living in fear forever. We needed to find out about the Midnight Cult, about their origins and the rituals they performed. Only then could we escape them. And I decided, even if I had to sacrifice myself, I would find out the truth. I suggested the group go find more clues. We needed to learn more about the abandoned house and the traces that this secret society had left behind. We began to dig through old documents, newspaper articles, and rumors in the town. One afternoon, we went to the town library, where there was a warehouse of old books that had long been abandoned. Ethan flipped through the old books. It seems that everything started with an event in the 1920s. A group of people discovered an underground temple where they began performing occult rituals. The scary thing is, they were not normal people. We continued to learn, and I discovered that the Midnight Cult had existed for a long time. They were people haunted by a dark power, capable of manipulating the afterlife. The temple they discovered was an ancient place, built on the foundations of a long-lost civilization. The paintings on the walls of the abandoned house were not random. They were ancient symbols, indicating the path to open the door between two worlds. I whispered, shocked. This is not a joke. This is real. They are opening a door, and we are in the middle of it. The group could do nothing but continue their search. We had discovered a new location, a place the paintings on the walls pointed to, a forest outside the town, where there was an ancient temple. That was where we had to go. But the one thing I could not forget was Mia's dream and the doors in it. I felt like what we were looking for, the world we could not understand, was slowly opening up before our eyes. I said with determination, "We cannot stop. Everything will end if we do not act now. Come with me." As our group approached the temple, suddenly a creepy sound echoed in the air, a low laugh, as if someone was watching us from afar. The group turned around, but saw nothing. A cold and mysterious feeling suddenly enveloped us, and I knew something terrible was waiting ahead. We reached the forest. Every step in the darkness of the dense trees made me feel more and more surrounded. It felt like someone was watching us, but when we turned around, there was nothing but darkness and the rustling of leaves. Everything seemed silent, but the silence made me feel even more uneasy. We found traces leading to an ancient temple, which the drawings in the abandoned house and the documents we found in the library pointed to. Everything was slowly coming together. I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. Could we escape the control of the Midnight Cult? Or were we walking into an inescapable trap? As we entered the area near the temple, the atmosphere changed. The smell of damp earth and an eerie silence filled the air. It felt like we were entering a different dimension, no longer part of the real world. I could feel something reaching out from the darkness, as if the temple walls were watching us, watching and waiting. Lucas whispered, "Everything here is strange. This is where they perform rituals, right?" Jack tried to contain his anxiety. "Of course. We have to be careful. Don't get trapped." We entered the temple. There were ancient drawings inside, strange writings that we couldn't understand. All of them were drawn on the stone walls, forming mysterious circles and shapes. I didn't know why, but I felt like these drawings were calling us, leading us into something. There was no return. Mia trembled. "We have to stop. This feeling, it's not good at all." Ethan chuckled softly, trying to reassure. "We can't go back, Mia. We have to find the truth." As I approached one particular painting, I realized there was something familiar about it. An image I had seen in Mia's dream. It was the door I could not forget. And suddenly, I understood. These paintings were not just decorations. They were maps, guides that would lead us to the place where the secret society was performing its ritual. I whispered, This is the door, right? We all stood still, looking at the painting. A strange feeling rose in my heart. I knew that we were entering a dangerous game, and if we did not act in time, we might never return. And then, just as I was about to say something, a sound came from behind us. Heavy footsteps, not ours. We turned, and that was when I saw strange figures standing in the darkness, watching us. The fear had turned into determination. We couldn't back down. Those figures weren't just strangers. They were members of the Midnight Cult, and they had been watching us for a long time. Now, we had no choice but to face them. The temple wasn't just a place for rituals. It was also a place where a terrifying power was held. I could feel that power right now. The feeling that if we didn't stop, we would be swallowed by the darkness. Those figures were approaching. Their footsteps echoed in the silence, like a warning that we had gone too far. My group stood still. No one said anything. The members of the secret society were all dressed in black. Their faces were invisible. Only their cold eyes were staring at us. I whispered to the group, "Don't let them get the upper hand. We have to do something now." I don't know if I have the strength to face them, but I know if we don't do something, we won't be able to escape from here. One of the figures stepped forward, and I could feel the terrifying power from them. They weren't humans anymore. They were manipulated creatures, and I could clearly see that they wouldn't stop until we were defeated. Jack growled. "We won't give up. Not this time." Ethan tried to stay calm. "Don't worry, we'll find a way." Suddenly, I felt a cold air pass over me. The cracks in the wall began to glow, and the strange sounds from the paintings seemed to come to life. An invisible force was trying to force us closer to the mysterious door we had seen in our dreams. Mia struggled. "We have to close this door, otherwise everything will collapse." The group started running towards the painting, which might be the key to stopping it all. But the figures in the secret society were not going to let us escape so easily. A fierce confrontation between life and death was happening right before our eyes. As we approached the painting, a powerful light from the door opened, and I felt an extremely strong pull from it. A terrible force was slowly pulling us into another world. In that moment, I realized a terrifying truth. We were not just dealing with a secret society, but a powerful supernatural force that we could not control. I gasped, desperate. "It can't be. We have to stop." The door opened, and we were pulled into darkness. What happened next? I couldn't be sure. But we stepped through that door, and it was unlike anything we had ever imagined. I couldn't understand what was happening. We stepped through that door, and when I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the temple. Everything around me was blurry, as if I was in another space, a completely different world. I could feel a strange power spreading throughout this space, making me feel like I was no longer myself. Strange sounds, incomprehensible whispers echoed in my head. The air was cold and thick, as if time had stopped here. I whispered, "Where is this? Where are we?" Ethan's voice was filled with worry. "Where have we entered? This is not our world." We stood still, looking around. Unfamiliar gates, strange drawings on the walls, and the dim light from mysterious lamps. The group did not dare to say anything. just silently observing everything. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare that I could not escape. Miarun trembled, looking up. Maybe we have entered another dimension, a world of theirs. We began to move through this strange space, and the deeper we went, the more I felt the oppression from the force that the Midnight Cult worshiped. Every step made me feel like there were invisible eyes watching us from all directions. Lucas doubted. We can't keep going forever. Something's wrong. Everything is too strange. A sudden flash of light stopped us. Before us was a large wall with ancient symbols on it. Part of me wanted to leave immediately, but the other part couldn't stop looking at those symbols. They seemed to be calling to me as if I had some kind of connection to them. Lily whispered. These symbols, they're similar to the ones we saw in the abandoned house. I moved closer, and when I touched the wall, the symbols began to glow, and immediately, a door opened. I didn't know what I was doing, but I felt like I couldn't stop. It felt like I was being pulled into something I couldn't control. Ethan turned around, panicked. Don't do this, Lily. But it was too late. The door opened, and we stepped through it. We didn't know where we were going, but I felt one thing. Things were spiraling out of control. We stepped into a larger space. Nothing but darkness. Soft laughter rang out from somewhere, as if someone was watching us. I felt the presence of an unseen force, and I knew we had gone too far. This door wasn't the way home. It was leading us into a place we couldn't imagine. Lily gasped. We have to go back. We can't go on. But when I turned around, the door was gone. We couldn't turn back, couldn't retreat. There was only darkness and strange sounds. And something very close, waiting for us. We had entered a world we could not understand. Everything around us was strange and dangerous. There was no way back, and I knew one thing for sure. We could not go back. The door we had entered was not the way back anymore. I felt like something was waiting for us, like an invisible monster lurking, watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. This world, the world of the Midnight Cult, was full of mysteries, cold stares from the darkness. And we, with all the fear in our hearts, could not retreat. We continued to walk through the dark corridors of this world. Every step made me feel more and more surrounded. Shadows in the darkness were moving around us. I did not know who they were, but we felt like someone was watching our every step. Suddenly, we stopped when a strange sound rang out from ahead. Heavy footsteps, as if something was approaching. The group fell silent, not daring to move. And then, from the darkness, a figure appeared. A person, but not a person. It was a creature with glowing eyes and a cold smile, as if it knew everything about us. I gasped. What is that? Ethan froze. Don't look into its eyes. It's a creature. We must face it. The creature didn't say anything, but I could feel the malice radiating from it. It moved closer, its gaze piercing us. I knew that if we didn't act now, we wouldn't be able to get out of here. I decided to take a chance. Raising my hand, I began to reread the words in the ancient book we found earlier. The words were strange, like a curse. We didn't know if it would work, but as soon as I finished the last sentence, the creature stopped. Lucas sighed in relief. We have to keep going. This is just the beginning. The creature turned and walked away, but I knew it wasn't the only danger. From now on, we would face greater challenges and fight a supernatural force that was manipulating this world. We had no choice but to continue our journey, even if it cost us dearly. I could never forget the look in the creature's eyes. It wasn't just an enemy, it was a representation of the evil we were facing. But now, that evil wasn't just limited to the creatures out there. It had begun to cling to us, to each member of the group. I could feel the change in my friends. Mia, who was the weakest, now began to act strangely. She kept looking at the ancient symbols we found in the temple, and every time she did, she became silent, as if drawn to another force. Mia whispered, "These symbols, they're talking to me. I have to follow them." I tried to suppress my anxiety, but that feeling couldn't be hidden. I didn't know if Mia was being controlled or not, but what I knew was that if we didn't stop, someone would have to die. As we continued through this world, the challenges became more and more intense. We faced strange creatures, secret doors that opened each time, bringing us to another challenge. Once again, we were drawn into a battle with a giant creature. Darkness surrounded, and the laughter of the midnight cult echoed from all sides. Ethan was fighting and panting. We have to find a way to close this door. Otherwise, we will never get out. Just as we were about to retreat, Mia suddenly walked towards a painting on the wall. She looked at it, as if noticing something we could not see. Suddenly, Mia screamed and collapsed. I rushed over, but she could only say one sentence. Mia was trembling, crying. We were tricked. The price is too high. Mia was seriously injured, and we could not continue our journey without helping her. However, her words about the price made me even more worried. Would we have enough strength to fight the Midnight Cult? Or would we have to pay too high a price to escape this place? Mia had regained consciousness, but we knew that everything had changed. She was no longer the same. There was something different in her eyes. It seemed that the Midnight Cult had succeeded in taking over a part of her soul. But we could not stop now. Now we were close to the final goal. A dungeon door opened, and the Midnight Cult was waiting for us on the other side. The final battle took place in the darkness. We all felt the mysterious power weighing down on us. The monstrous creatures rushed at us, but we could not stop. Each of us had our own goals, but together we had to stop the Midnight Cult from opening the door between worlds, where we would all be wiped out. Mia, despite being manipulated, eventually realized that she had to sacrifice herself to close that door. At the last moment, she made a decision that none of us could have expected. Mia sobbed. "This is the only way to save you. Don't worry about me. You must live." The door finally closed, and the world that the Midnight Cult created disappeared. But the price we had to pay was too great. Mia was gone. Her memories would forever haunt us. We escaped, but I knew everything had changed forever. I felt tormented. We could survive, but this price, was it worth it?